Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for this special edition of Coach's Corner Live. I'm Katina Rankin here in Tupelo to talk all things safe about women and children. And joining me now to explain safe is the Executive Director, Dr. Zowee Shanks. Thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Shanks.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start from the very beginning.
Okay.
With you just telling people exactly what is SAFE. What does SAFE stand for?
Shelter and Assistance for Family Emergencies.
So what exactly do you do here?
Oh, SAFE is a domestic violence sexual assault shelter where we house women and children and men, because sometimes men are affected by domestic violence as well. And so we have a 19-bed facility here. But not only do we do domestic violence and sexual assault, we also have a housing program. Because you know, when people are running from domestic violence, they come with just what they have on their backs. And so we also have a housing program where we help them become stable.
Okay, so let's break it down.
Okay.
We all know domestic violence means physical violence,
Yes,
as well as it can be verbal violence.
Mm-hmm.
So if a man or a woman is being beat up by his or her spouse or partner, those are the people that you bring in.
Yes, but majority of the time, people don't understand that not only is it physical, emotional, mental, but it's also financial abuse. Sometimes, as we know, the aggressor has the pocketbook, meaning that they're holding the money. And so some of our clients come in too because of that situation. They can't leave because of finances. And so when that's the case, they come here as well.
Give me an example of a bad case that you know about and tell me why SAFE was important in that moment.
Oh, wow. We've had an elderly abuse case where one of the ladies that came was being beaten by her daughter. Could you imagine having your child, beat up on you or whatever? We had a case like that. She was an emergency case, meaning that when we walked in, she was already sitting outside on our porch looking for assistance. And I think that's one of the worst situations that I've been a part of since I've been to ED. I wasn't really aware that children beat their parents, but they do. And so that's the worst case that I've seen. When she came in, she was beaten severely, and we were able to help her get a protection order. Because one thing about it is, when people are fleeing domestic violence, if we don't help them in the process, get the protection order, making sure that they can file charges, then when they get out and they leave the shelter, it's easy for the abuser to come back. But our job is to make sure that they're safe and secure even while they're here and when they leave.
Dr. Shanks, can you walk me through the process? Like if I walk through your door, what would you do to get me to safety?
Okay, so the first thing is a phone call. So we're a 24-hour crisis center. And so you call us, we do the crisis call, we go through the whole process and we ask you several questions. And then once that happened and you are a victim and it's time for you to come to shelter, then the only way you can really get here is that a police bring you to here. So Tupelo Sheriff Department is the person that ends up bringing you. Sometimes we have those crises, but there are far in between that somebody just show up on our doorstep. But to get from the beginning to into shelter, you have to do the phone call, the police, you go to the station, and then they bring you here to us.
So what if someone is scared to get the police involved? How do you handle that?
So we have what is called mobile advocacy, where we have someone, because everybody is not going to come to shelter, but we do have free counseling. We have someone that can be with them, that if they don't want to come because they may be afraid, because that's a thing too, then we are able to walk them through even the court proceedings if they don't want to come into shelter, if they still want to file the police report, if they still want to do that, but they're afraid to come in shelter because the police have to be called. Then we work with them in their own home or get them to safety, get them to a hotel or whatever, so that they can get the needs met that they have.
Why is this work important?
Oh, man. It's important because one thing that I realized being the ED since I've been here, women and children, no matter what they have gone through, fear is real. Like having that fear over your head that I don't know if I'm going to be beaten when he get home, or I don't know what's going to happen if me and my children gonna have enough food to eat because he's holding the purse strap, right? Those things are important because who's going to be the voice for the voiceless? If we're not here to make sure that the women and children and sometimes men have a voice, then what are we here to do? I believe that we all have purpose and we all have been able to answer a call. This is just a call that we've answered to be the voice for the voiceless, to step in when women and children and sometimes men are fleeting situations where they don't know or don't have hope to figure out what their next is going to be. So it's important that we make sure that we can get them to a safe place and that we can make sure that once they're here, that we get all the needs met, like counseling, case management, if they need job readiness skills. Because, you know, sometimes if you've been a single mom or if you've been a stay-at-home mom, rather, at home, you don't have a lot of skills sometimes, but we're able to help them get the things that they need so that they can have the courage to walk away. And so it's important that we continue the work that we do.
So I've come in, I've called, I've gone to the sheriff's department. They brought me here.
Yes.
I'm in. What's the next step?
The next step is, of course, everybody have to fill out the paperwork. We have to go through the paperwork to make sure your files and stuff are together. But then you go to your room. Like we have, again, the 19-bed facilities. So we allow women to go to their room. We give them a couple of days to get their thoughts together. Because if you're fleeing domestic violence, think about how long it took you to make a decision to go. Some of these women have been in these situations over 25 years. And the fact that they made that decision, they don't need us sitting talking to them 24 hours, 48 hours after that. They need time to gather their thoughts. So we give them the opportunity to do that. But within those 48 hours, up to 72 hours, we have a counselor that's ready to be able to go through the process to make sure their mind is clear so that we can start a process of transition to the next.
And how long have you been the executive director?
I've been the executive director now a year.
For 1 year.
Yeah.
So you've been able to see how everything is working, how everything is operating. Tell me your greatest need to continue to protect women, children, and sometimes men.
So our greatest need right now is capital. We need working capital because a lot of times money. Yes. Because a lot of times people don't understand that we get grants in through Department of Health, Mississippi Department of Health, and also Mississippi Home Corps. But those grants are match grants, meaning that we have to pay the money first and get the money reimbursed. And so we need money to continue to do the services that we are called to do while we're waiting on those reimbursements.
I'm not sure if you're going to be able to answer this for me, but in order to serve this community, how much does it take, let's say, per month with the housing, with the food and everything else, the counseling to run a facility like this?
$137,000.
A month?
A month.
Wow.
Yes.
How long has S.A.F.E been in existence here in Tupelo?
45 years. We've been doing this work for 45 years. It's mind-blowing to me at 45 years old to know that this agency has been in existence as long as I've been alive. That means we've been serving women and children forever to me because I'm 45 years old. But the thing about it is they didn't start off with the name S.A.F.E. They started off with Aid for Battered Women. But because somebody said they didn't have any battered women, they said, okay, well, let's change the name. Because if all people are going to think about is battered women or that's a negative connotation, well, let's change it to S.A.F.E. Let's change it to something that somebody will want to talk about now. Because when you begin to talk about battered women and children, nobody really want to talk about that.
Right. Why is it important to be able to have that safe place to be able to talk about it? Because, you know, most women are ashamed that's been through domestic violence. They don't want to talk about it, period. They don't want people to know my spouse, my boyfriend is beating on me. And they try to hide it with makeup. And if they hit below, people can't see it. They cover it with clothing. Why is it important to be able to verbalize what's happening to you?
Because people are suffering in silence. If you don't learn to verbalize it, or even if people like us don't verbalize it loud enough to say this is happening in our community, it's happening in your churches, come on, it's happening in wherever there's people, it's happening. If we don't learn to have the hard conversations, because that's really the issue, we don't want to have the hard conversations, but the hard conversations is needed to be had so that the people can get the help that they need.
Yes.
We have to talk. We have to be the voice for those that are not able to speak up for themselves. Because listen, In the world that we live in, suicide rate is high. And people are literally suffering in a place that they feel like, well, if I can't get it out, if I can't talk about it, I might as well not be here anymore. But that's a lie. And it's time for us to put the voice out to say domestic violence is happening every day. 1 out of 7 women are being being abused. And if we don't see that, then it's time now for us to start opening our mouth and talk about it.
You know, I want to talk about this.
Okay.
So I'm about to get really personal with you, right? And first, I'm going to share. I was in a domestic violence relationship and I stayed because of fear of telling anyone. So even in the professional career that I had, I was dealing with it every day. My scars, my bruises were always from the chest down because clothing would cover that, right? But what stuck with me too is the verbal abuse. And here's what a lot of you may not know. Dr. Shanks, you've been through a lot.
Yeah.
Will you share your personal testimony with us?
Yeah. So again, I'm 45 years old, but my biological mom passed away when I was 5 months. And so that put me in the system, meaning Department of Human Services. I grew up in foster care. And a lot of things didn't happen well in my life. I was sexually abused. I was neglected. I was abandoned and abused. Any type of thing that you can think that happens to children, it happened to me. But one thing about where I realized is somebody became my voice. Somebody opened up and said to me, Zowee, you have choices. You don't have to continue to allow this to happen. You can make a decision that you want to get up and do something for your life. And even though I didn't understand and I was scared, I believed in that person. See, it takes one person to stand up and say, you can do it. It takes one person to stand up and say, until you're strong enough to do it for yourself, I do it for you. See, that's what S.A.F.E is here to do. S.A.F.E is here to be the voice, the agency to say, until you're strong enough, we'll do it for you. Until you got the confidence to do it, let us have the confidence for you. And even if your scars is neck down,
come on,
you still have scars, huh? Even if your scars is not physical, like you can't see it, it may be emotional. Your soul may be damaged. S.A.F.E is here to say, listen, we will sit with you. We will pray with you. We will give you counseling, whatever it is that you need to get to the next place. And that place is hope and healing. We're here to do that. And I believe everything that I've gone through for the years of my life that I went through it for a time such as this. Like I went through all of the things. I went through foster care. I went through people telling me that I couldn't, that I wasn't smart enough, that I wasn't going to be this or I wasn't going to be that. I went through all of that today to stand here to look at you and say, even though the enemy said I couldn't, God said I could. And because of all of that, I can say truly today that I'm Dr. Zowee for a purpose. I'm Dr. Zowee for this cause. I believe that I've been assigned to, that God called me by name for this moment, for this crisis, to know that if I went through and came over on the other side, and if somebody was a voice for me, Zowee, I need you now to be a voice for the voiceless. Would you help the ones that can't help themselves? And that's what we're here now for, because that's an assignment. And I answered the call. And so I have scars too that you can't see. Most people would never know the things that I've gone through, but I've used my scars and all of the things that I have endured to say, if I made it over, it's time for me to help somebody else make it over.
You know, I wasn't planning to do this, but I am because I'm led. You have a book out that talks about your experience. Give me the name of the book and where people can get it.
The name of the book is How I Made It Over, and it's on Amazon.
How I Made It Over.
And it's the work that I do today is because of the life that I had to live through. See, I didn't stay in the midst of it. I lived through it. And because I lived through it, it's our job now to help somebody else live through it. Because what else would we do? If we made it over, it's time to help somebody else do the same.
And I encourage you to actually get the book. I got it and I read it. And Zowee talks about how she couldn't read until a certain age, and it was a teacher who helped bring her through. She talks about the sexual abuse at home and other places, but yet she's been able to rise. And so that should give you hope too. And if you're at home and you need help, make that call. Make that call to S.A.F.E so they can help you. I'm going to let you go in a few minutes.
Okay.
But most people also don't know that you are a minister.
I am.
So as a woman of God,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to look into your camera that we have set up here and tell people who have never heard of S.A.F.E, people who have even heard of S.A.F.E but never thought about giving, why they need to give. The floor is yours.
It's important that we search our heart to see that in this season of our lives, the Bible teaches us that we need our time, talent, and treasure. In order to do the type of work that we do, to continue to have a 19-bed facility for these women and children, we need treasure, meaning we need money to continue to do the work that we are called to do. I need you to open up your eyes and see and look around. It could be your neighbor. It could be a woman that's at church sitting beside you. It can be a woman in a grocery store, or it could be you. We're asking you today to think about partnering with S.A.F.E and to give your treasure so that we can continue to do the work that we do. It's important, Katina, that we are here for another 45 years or longer, really, to do the work that we've been called to do.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with me. I'm blessed to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.